Big story this week is Spencer Pratt running for mayor of Los Angeles, really shaking up the race there. Spencer Pratt was the star of a reality show, The Hills. So I guess all reality show stars aren't white trash bimbos, but I guess there have been 10,000 of them. Some of them must be real stars. And that is Spencer Pratt. He's apparently married to Heidi Montag, who's mostly plastic, from what I understand, but very happy for both of them. He is running because his house was burned down in the LA fires, and Karen Bass, the mayor at the time, was on a boondoggle to Ghana as 16,000 houses and other structures were burning to the ground, 28 people being killed, thousands of people displaced, and she's off dancing at some commemoration or something for the new, I don't know, potentate of Ghana. So he's been shaking up the race with some fantastic AI ads. We're going to play one right now.
Please, I'm begging you. There's homeless drug addicts in front of the schools. My children aren't safe.
Look, if you were a transgender migrant, I could get you a free pussy.
Let's move the drug addicts closer.
Bass already solved crime. I endorse her.
Next! Please, I just want to rebuild my home. It's been over a year.
Mom, look!
This is a machine. If we want to burn this town to the ground, pull through that!
So that's why right wingers across the country are getting so excited. That is just one of them. I could watch that one all day. I could watch all of them. They are just fantastic and so important. Los Angeles, one of the great cities of the world. Throw in the weather and the beauty and the beautiful people, and it's unbelievable that it's going down. But every city in the United States is collapsing. So there's a lot of hope for this Spencer Pratt running as a Republican in Los Angeles. Oh my gosh, it seems like a long shot, except he has been so fantastic and so fantastic in the debates. Look them up, like that ad. It's Nirvana. In the debates, he's up against both Karen Bass, who's done such a bang up job in Los Angeles, and an Indian councilwoman, Nithya Raman. So Nithya Raman's big thing is we need to treat the homeless. They need treatment for their drug addiction. And Spencer Pratt has been saying, which he's quoted in this article I wanted to bring to your attention from Wired magazine. They attack Spencer Pratt for calling it super meth. And apparently that's not a thing, according to the writer. You can always trust somebody who says that's not a thing, because it's almost as grating a cliche as saying the quiet part out loud. So he's said in the debates that, for example, Nithya Raman, she wants to go down under the bridges to the homeless and offer them treatment. He says they'll slit her throat. Accurate portrayal. But according to Wired, the title is Spencer Pratt is creating a panic over super meth. It's not even real. And then they say they have experts say the word is drug war propaganda. It's supposed to make you think that this new meth is more potent and more powerful, and creating some sort of crisis. But they have talked to experts, so I'm really big on experts quoted by the media. It's always just some idiot they ran into on the street. Let's see who their expert is for this story in Wired. It is. Let's see, what's her name here? Claire Zagorski. And why is she an expert? She's a paramedic. She's a paramedic, yeah, not an emergency room doctor, for example, not a meth researcher, not an investigative reporter who has spent 20 years investigating this, but put a pin in that. So what she says is, oh, she's also a harm reductionist. That means give them needles. That'll work. It's worked so well in San Francisco. She's also a PhD candidate at the University of Texas at Austin College of Pharmacology, meaning she has a BA. So we have a paramedic with a BA. That's Wired's expert. Her answer is, she says it's not meth that's driving homelessness. It's a crisis of housing. So she's an expert we can trust. She claims, I want to throw in a few more things, that this P2P, methamphetamine, what Spencer Pratt is quite accurately calling super meth, it's made from the same thing as meth, or something different, but it's all still meth in the end, which is, I think, a really illuminating point, because a light Budweiser and Everclear grain alcohol, it's all just alcohol in the end. No reason to distinguish the two. So I thought I'd check in with an actual expert, Sam Quinones. I've interviewed him a couple times on my Substack. The smarter people watching will recognize Sam Quinones as actually literally the #1 expert on meth and fentanyl in the United States. He's the author of Dreamland, which won a billion awards. National Books Critics named it the #1 best nonfiction book of 2015, as the best book or one of the best books from Slate, BuzzFeed, Daily Beast, newspaper after newspaper. It was a stunning book. I highly recommend Dreamland. His follow-up book, The Least of Us, which was specifically about this super meth. He doesn't call it super meth. It's P2P meth, and fentanyl. This is what he says in The Least of Us. He talks to a drug court judge. She says, the meth clients used to be just, sort of degenerates. They're missing teeth. They come in, they go out. They might have a job. But now, starting around 2018, her drug court clients were now delusional, hallucinating. One girl walked off the roof of a parking garage. As this new meth showed up, the judge said, so did the tents and the homeless encampments. This is a little more on the P2P meth. In one town, a recovering addict I spoke to remembered how the meth years ago energized her to clean the house all day and party all night. After some years of sobriety, she relapsed in 2019. The new meth, she says, quote, would just keep me awake, but I was like a zombie. I picked my cuticles all day. It made my brain foggy. I was numb. I stayed in my home and didn't leave. People brought me drugs. The former meth was about 40% pure. This new P2P meth is a lot cheaper, and it's 90% pure. Funnily, after one of those debates for the Los Angeles mayor, Quinones wrote a column for his old newspaper. He was a longtime investigative reporter with the Los Angeles Times. He wrote one specifically on obviously they called him and said, hey, is super meth a thing? So his first sentence is, well, no, that's not technically the name for it. And then he goes on to describe what he calls a hyper pure methamphetamine. Well, okay, that's more syllables. I think super meth kind of captures the point there. And he says, quoting from Quinones in his article, it's a major driver of homelessness and mental illness here in LA and in many other parts of the country. The effects of this hyper pure meth, or for short, super meth, were quite different. Users were plunged into their own sleepless, tormented isolation and symptoms of profound mental illness. They grew paranoid, belligerent, violent, deranged, and in many cases quickly devolved into homelessness. Meth is the more pervasive illegal drug on LA streets. It's also more likely to create disturbing, erratic, sometimes violent public behavior that Angelenos have come to associate with homelessness. Addicts in tents immersed in endless supplies of meth and now fentanyl were rarely ready for treatment, which they routinely refuse. Okay, Sam Quinones, leading expert on methamphetamine and fentanyl in the country, he teaches at places like the Mayo Clinic. Now, admittedly, he's not a paramedic. My second story for you is I loved this story this weekend from the New York Times. They're gloating. I don't know why they, I guess they think it hurts the Republican Party. Gloating headline: 7 Republicans voted to convict Trump. Most are no longer in office. I think they're kind of making fun of Republicans for being lemmings and sticking with Trump as the ship is kind of going down. Senator Bill Cassidy's defeat means no more than 2 of them will be left in Congress next year. Guess who? uh, Susan Collins of Maine, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska. So it got me thinking. That's not a bad reason to oppose them. I think it was stupid to vote to impeach Trump for January 6th. Yet and still, what is the issue most Republicans opposed Trump on? Doesn't that make a difference? What reason they opposed him? Because most of them opposed him because of his position on immigration. Which reminds me of the 14 Republican senators who voted for Marco Rubio's amnesty bill in 2013. Only 3 are still in the Senate today: Collins, Murkowski, and Lindsey Graham, all the ladies. But that was a long time ago. Maybe they died. No, only one of them died. That was John McCain. In their next elections after voting for amnesty, 7 were reelected of the 14. 7 were either defeated or retired. I'm counting retirements because each election cycle, 90% of senators run for reelection. 90% of incumbent senators win their reelections. So to have 4 of the 7 retiring, I think they saw the writing on the wall. And the main reason these yes, some of them were also opposed. They opposed Trump and Trump opposed them, but they voted for Marco Rubio's amnesty. And as I say, what was the main reason Republicans hated Trump and might have voted to impeach him? It was always immigration. Starting in 2015, when he attacked that Judge Curiel for ruling against him, calling him the Mexican judge, and at the Democratic National Convention 2016, when Khizr Khan spoke against Trump. Can we play that clip, please?
You have sacrificed nothing.
Then as president, you recall he was insulting Haiti. He was calling a lot of the countries our immigrants come from, at least according to Senator Durbin, and please God, let it be true, shithole countries. Why can't we get them from Norway? So I think there's a lot of overlap here, but the New York Times has never gloated about senators voting for Marco Rubio's amnesty going down in flames as well. Only 3 still in the United States Senate. Oh, and by the way, of the ones who were reelected, like Lamar Alexander, they were reelected by the skin of their teeth. They all had primary voters. Lamar Alexander never won by a smaller amount. He was winning his reelections. He was the senator from Tennessee by 80, 70%, especially once he's an incumbent. He barely slipped by at 49% the next year, and then, of course, retired. My third story for you, social media story from the New York Times. The title is, it's a great title and a great beginning, Why Smart Products Have Started to Look Like the Dumb Choice. And it begins, the 21st century tech industry has accomplished a lot of cool things, but among the most remarkable may be a trick of language. It managed to make the word smart feel repulsive and the word dumb sound appealing. How else to explain, this is the crucial line, the more than a quarter of young Americans who are curious about switching to a dumb phone? So I looked at that and thought, okay, now we have the exact figure of young Americans, as they say, who are very suggestible to what the MSM, what the culture at large is telling them, i.e., this total hysteria based on nothing against social media, one of the greatest inventions of our time. I happen to agree with the New York Times on all these smart devices. Uh, I don't know. It's like we've forgotten about the invention of the wheel, something that I might add most of the cultures we're importing never did invent, but the wheel was a great invention. So how about thermostats? Remember how easy it was to set the temperature? It was just a wheel. You turn it one way, turn it the other way. Now you have to read a manual to figure out how to turn the temperature up or down. So I will totally, in fact, I've had some of my thermostats changed out by my electrician who thought I was nuts into, no, I want a dumb thermostat. I want this, I don't want to have to read a manual to change the temperature. Same thing with these computerized cars. We're all going to crash, pushing all of the buttons instead of just turning a dial to get a different station, turning a dial to change a wheel to change the volume. Of course, all the streaming and smart TV things are driving everybody crazy. It takes you an hour to figure out how to find what it is you want to watch. Forget all the selection issue. I don't even have a problem with that. But anyway, the details on this, what the New York Times is referring to, I looked it up. It's a poll from an outfit called Civic Science that says as many as 23% of consumers with a smartphone say they're at least somewhat likely to swap out for a flip phone, including 39% of Gen Z adult smartphone owners. Okay, 39% of Gen Z adults are very, very suggestible. But I wanted to compare that to something else. Okay, so years later, when we realized how all of the COVID quote mitigation measures were a waste of time and just destroyed people's lives and businesses, 2024, what percentage of Americans thought that the quote mitigation policies, masks, closing schools, closing restaurants, social distancing, thought those were a good idea? Oh, vaccination requirements. According to the Harvard School of Public Health, not to be confused with Harvard Medical School. This is the Kennedy School of medical schools, public health. A majority of Americans in 2004 say 4 key pandemic policies were generally a good idea in retrospect. Masks requirements in stores and businesses, 70% thought it was a good idea. Healthcare worker vaccination requirements, 65% thought it was a good idea. Indoor dining closures, 63%. K through 12 public closures, probably the most horrible of the quote mitigation policies. 56% thought it was a good idea. 42% say all of the policies were a good idea. 37% say some were. So that's how much kids like social media. They would prefer to be locked down, wearing masks, not getting enough oxygen, than giving up their smartphones. And I salute them for that. My fourth topic is a Nate Silver post this weekend. I like Nate Silver. I think he's he's liberal, but he seems to be a pretty accurate pollster, as pollsters go. When he was closer than most of the other mainstream pollsters in 2016 on Trump. They were all yelling at him for saying Trump had, I don't know, a 40% chance or something. So he had a post this weekend, and when he gets something wrong, he's very transparent about it. Anyway, I like his stuff. I think he's striving to be honest, and he's not a nut. But he had one I have to disagree with this weekend. He was talking about how far, should Democrats go in playing hardball. And he doesn't want them to go too far, but wants them to be tough. That was the gist of it. And then at the end, he throws in, he wants to compare Democrats to Republicans. Those pussy Democrats, whereas Republicans, ooh, watch out for them. Were Republicans playing hardball when they threatened to breach the debt ceiling to extract concessions out of Obama? Okay, that was in 2013. He's acting like Republicans are the first ones to think of this, but in 2006, every single Democrat in the U.S. Senate, including future President Barack Obama and future President Senator Joe Biden, voted to block the rise in the debt ceiling because they were upset about the Iraq War. And also tax cuts. So I don't want to play the schoolyard game, but I'm sorry, that's what you're doing, Nate Silver. Democrats did it first. They did it first. We learned from the experts on that one. The other one, I think it was three examples of Republicans playing really brutal hardball that it would never even occur to Democrats to do. The other one, I'm sorry, this one's driving me crazy. When they refused to hold a confirmation vote on Merrick Garland. That was right before the 2016 election. I'm so sick of hearing about this. It is utterly preposterous. It was months before the election. There is absolutely no way Democrats, a majority, if Democrats had a majority in the Senate, that they would have voted to confirm a Republican nominee had a Republican been president. Republicans had a pretty big majority, especially compared to recently, in the United States Senate, 54 seats. They weren't going to confirm Merrick Garland. He was going to be voted down. So what's the point of the confirmation hearings? To bring him in, waste his time, waste the Senate's time, humiliate them? It isn't the failure to hold confirmation hearings. Republicans weren't going to vote for him. He wasn't going to get a majority. No possible way. You guys got to give up on the Merrick Garland thing. The final one, his example of, the brutal hardball tactics of Republicans, is when Texas Republicans kicked off a mid-decade redistricting war last summer. Okay, here's a little history on gerrymandering in Texas, as you can see from those numbers on the chart. Those are congressional districts in Fort Worth, Dallas area, and then the Houston area. This was back in 1991. Democrats controlled the Texas legislature. And they drew the most bonkers, gerrymandered congressional map that so did not reflect the will of the Texas people. Texas had been voting, I don't know, at least since 1988, I guess a little bit before that. But for the next decade, a majority, sometimes a substantial majority, were voting for a Republican for president. All of the vast majority of the Texas legislature was starting to vote Republican. But yet and still, even with a majority of Republicans in Texas, somehow Democrats had a 15 to 17% lead in congressional seats. And that's because of these wacky, non-congruent congressional districts with completely insane congressional lines. Republicans kept suing and would go to the Supreme Court. And this ludicrous Texas gerrymandered map was not finally dispensed with for more than a decade. I think it finally happened in 2003. So there's the issue with gerrymandering. Boy, we totally learned from the best. And my final story, I want to talk about the election tomorrow in Kentucky. It's Representative Thomas Massie. I've never seen such a campaign of lies against a political candidate, and I am including New York Times running a front page story on Mitt Romney cutting off a hippie's hair back in junior high school when Romney was running for president. The drunk driving accident that George Bush got in Kennebunkport years earlier, back when he was still a drinker, for driving too slowly home from the country club. No, I'm including those. This is just a constant barrage of lies against Representative Thomas Massie. I disagree with him on a lot of things. He's a hardcore libertarian. I've interviewed him 3 times on my Substack. The first time just because he's brilliant. I mean, I don't know what happened to this. If someone agrees with me 90% of the time, I'm for him. Boy, is that true with Massie. He is rock solid on all the issues Americans, forget Republicans, claim to care about, like not spending like drunken sailors, abiding by the Constitution, not lavishing other countries with foreign aid, not slipping in heinous proposals in an omnibus bill that always has some bright and perky little title like, bill to honor mothers. And then you find out we will be censoring all Republicans. He's very solid on the censorship and spying issue. Incidentally, the second interview I had with Massie, I told him I wanted to have him back just to argue with him about the things I disagreed with him on, principally drugs and immigration. though I generally trust no one. I don't think anyone should be allowed to talk about immigration unless you've lived in Los Angeles for 2 months or I don't know, 2 weeks, 2 days. I'll give you 2 days in Los Angeles, then we'll talk about immigration. But he lives in a really nice district. It's like Mayberry, 1950s America, so just has no idea what's going on in the rest of the country. You can't trust people who have not lived in Los Angeles. Or I suppose at this point, Minneapolis, Portland, Maine, all the other Columbus, Ohio, other places where they've dumped Somalis. But anyway, I keep having people I know tell me, well, he opposes the SAVE Act. That's the act that requires ID to prove you're a citizen before voting in the US. No, of course, there are videos of him voting for it over and over and over again. He urges his colleagues to vote for it. But they slipped into one of the SAVE Act votes. They voted on it several times, obviously, because he's voted on it several times. They slipped in a provision that would not require the 24 hours notice before voting on a bill. And he said, that's preposterous. Take that out. Democrats slip these poison pills into popular bills, and most Republicans just go along with it. Massie makes a big deal of it. No, take that out. This is a poison pill. We need 24 hours before reading a bill. Isn't that something Americans keep saying they'd like Congress to do? Read the bills before voting on them, not be like Nancy Pelosi and we'll find out what's in the bill after we voted for it. There's also been the claim that Massie supports transgenders in ladies' bathrooms. No, this is just him thinking that the federal government shouldn't be sticking its nose into every little thing, including of private institutions, private entities, states, private individuals. There was an executive order, and okay, I like it. I don't know that I would have said I opposed it, but it is quite bullying from the Trump administration to various colleges, including Thomas Massie's alma mater, MIT. It's very smart, but we'll get back to that. And there were a whole slew of requirements for their federal funding to continue, including demanding that they freeze tuition. This is like rent control, that they abolish tuition for certain students majoring in STEM fields. I don't know why. The jobs are going to be taken by Indians anyway. And there was a whole slew of requirements. One of the requirements was no transgenders in women's bathrooms. Well, again, it's like these omnibus bills. That was one provision in a lot of the executive branch bossing around the colleges. And you may like the way we're bossing around the colleges, but that would be kind of new. If that's what's going to be done to boss around colleges, well, okay, just wait until Democrats are back in power. And the woke requirements, as if colleges could be any more woke, but I don't know, maybe they could. Maybe they could prohibit the hiring of any conservative professors. He's explained this. By the way, there was no vote on this. He just said he is against the federal government dictating policies of private entities by threatening to withhold federal funding. So that's another lie. Oh man, the claim that he voted against the Department of Homeland Security and he's anti-border security, he wants open borders. Like I say, I think he's not as tough as I am on immigration. But no, he's voted for border funding many, many, many times. In one of the border funding bills, again, Democrats slip in a provision, I believe it's the Democrats, please God, don't let it be Republicans, to fund the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. That's the one the Biden administration used to suppress truthful information about COVID and truthful information about Hunter Biden's laptop and so on. It is the censorship machine for the Democratic Party. And Massie raised a fuss and said, I'm not going to vote to fund that agency. I don't think the government should be spying on and censoring Americans. Okay, you could say, maybe I would. I'm a fanatic on this. As I said in 2015, I wouldn't mind if Trump were performing, late-term abortions in the White House as long as he keeps his immigration promises. So maybe I would have said, sure, spy on me, censor me, just build the wall. But I'm glad there are some members of Congress who do want to fight censorship and spying. In any event, that is not voting against wall funding. that is complaining about a poison pill slipped into a DHS bill. So that's another lie. This bi- they're the two things that really mattered him about are the Epstein files and foreign aid. Um, Obviously, a vast majority of Americans agree with Massie on both releasing the Epstein files and on cutting and no more foreign aid. Americans say over and over again, we are sick of foreign aid. I know you're going to say, oh, it's such a small part of the budget and we can help manipulate other countries around the world, make them do our bidding. Yeah, it hasn't really worked that well. Other countries still hate us. They still invade one another. It's just a big fat waste of money. In any event, 62% of Republicans support abolishing all foreign aid. And as for the Epstein files, well, if that makes Massie anti-Trump, then Trump is anti-Trump because he signed that bill. And every single member of Congress voted for Massie's bill to release the Epstein files, but one. And that was just because he wanted to be consistent, which, boy, talk about. Now, that's something I might hold against a congressman, insisting on consistency. No voter has ever gone to the polls and said, well, I don't really like his positions, but damn, he's consistent. Nobody ever votes on that. Stop worrying about being consistent. Just vote the right way. So Americans really like that. Nobody wants to attack him on that. But those are the real reasons I think they hate him. There are a lot of pro-Israel supporters who get very nervous when Republicans start talking about cutting foreign aid. But as I pointed out in the Substack post, AIPAC Super PAC claimed that because he's against foreign aid, he's against all foreign aid, not just foreign aid. He's not picking out any foreign countries. No, this one I really hate. No, he's against all foreign aid. And yet AIPAC Super PAC spokesman says, for this reason, calls Massie the most anti-Israel Republican in the House. Okay, but Massey's also against foreign aid to Ukraine. He's also against foreign aid to, Taiwan and a dozen other countries. So why doesn't the AIPAC PAC mention that? Well, quite reasonably, they care more about Israel than they care about every other country we're giving foreign aid to. See, that's exactly Massey's point. He cares more about our country than every other country in the world. But it's because, you can't say, I hate this guy because he votes with a majority of the American people. He votes with his constituents. So they keep coming up with these nonsense BS stories. The last two, this nut woman steps forward at the last minute. She's made false claims against men before, making just nutty claims about how Massie paid her hush money so that she would drop a wrongful termination lawsuit against a different congressional office. Not his. It doesn't really make any sense, and who cares? But also, they apparently dated, and she accused him of emotional abuse and inappropriate behavior. Nothing physical. She's confirmed. Now she's pretty much not responding to press inquiries. Everyone in a position to know has contradicted every single aspect of her claim. The dates don't add up. The money doesn't add up. The time, the divorce, the when she was fired, none of it adds up. And it's worth mentioning she has been found in court to have made up false claims of abuse against another man. One last one I just came across, Laura Loomer, who's basically Trump's vice president now. She has a big thing about how Nazis are showing up at Thomas Massie rallies. Point one, oh my gosh, they said the same thing about Trump. Point two, someone said, hey, Laura, if this guy's a Nazi, and by the way, anyone can show up to a rally, it could be a plant, but and all she has is a picture of this guy at the rally. If this guy's a Nazi, how come you interviewed him 2 weeks ago? And she explains, well, he was really anti-Muslim. So remember who's spreading these lies. I can't keep disputing all of them. So much money has been spent against him. He may well go down tomorrow, but just remember who's lying. I mean, half these tweets I'm even bothering to respond to, it just seems like a bot farm out there with one lie after another. I have never seen anything like it. Boy, it kicked into high gear right before the primary. But to perk you up, let's show another Spencer Pratt video, and I'll talk to you next time.
Daddy!
You were in a coma. 3 years.
MacArthur Park, right? Where are all the needles and homeless people?
The mayor fixed it.
Wait, isn't this downtown? Where are all the tents? The piss and the shit and the criminal drug addicts?
The mayor fixed it.
They rebuilt the Palisades? How?
The mayor fixed it.
Wow. Karen Bass really turned the city around.
Karen Bass isn't the mayor anymore, honey.
Who's the mayor?
Spencer Pratt.